The Amazfit Bip, often touted as the closest thing to a Pebble smartwatch. But does it really live up to the hype? Is it really a true Pebble replacement? Today, let's take a closer look at that. Hello and welcome back to another Random Wednesday episode. Today, let's take a look at the Amazfit Bip from the point of view of a Pebble user. I've had a Pebble for several years now and it eventually broke on me, so I did what everyone else did and I bought myself an Amazfit Bip. And it's been several months now, which is why I thought, I know it well enough to share my experience with you. So do understand that that's how we're going into this. We're comparing it to a Pebble and seeing whether it is an adequate replacement. So how I'm gonna approach this is I'm gonna talk about similarities and differences. And so without further ado, let us jump in. Firstly, let's talk similarities. One thing people love about the Bip is the fact that it has a great battery life. Some places have it rated up to 45 days. I haven't seen that sort of performance out of this watch. But yeah, I can easily charge it say once a week or even less. So definitely the battery life holds up. And in fact, I think this is one of the few places in which it even surpasses the Pebble. On top of that, the Pebble has a nice, clear, always-on screen. Similar to the Pebble, it's basically, some sort of memory LCD display, which people often call e-paper. Under bright sunlight, it looks great. And even in normal room light, it is readable. It's not as readable as a sheet of paper. I think the Pebble, is slightly better in this regard. But all in all, I have no complaints about the readability of the Bip screen. So that's where all the pluses are. Yes, there are only two of them, because we're about to move into the differences, and it's not quite as nice of a story. Let us begin with the minor differences, the things that are not really deal breakers, even though they are different from how the Pebble behaves. Firstly, Pebble users are very used to shaking their wrists to basically switch on the backlight. The Bip doesn't do this. Instead, the Bip detects it when you lift your arm. Now, this is in theory fairly equivalent, but I find the Bip to be a little bit not sensitive enough, if that makes sense. What this means is sometimes when I'm in public, I've got to just do this. Nope, didn't work, put it back down, try again. I look like an idiot. And that's not great. Obviously, you can press the button at the side to switch on the screen, but sometimes your other hand is occupied. So in all honesty, this doesn't feel as user-friendly as the Pebble. Speaking of the button, the Pebble has 3 buttons on the side, acting as up, down and OK. The Bip, on the other hand, only has a single button, and this button only works as a screen unlock and a home button. Instead, the vast majority of your actions involve using the touch screen. Yes, the watch has a touch screen, and I'm not really sure it's really needed in this regard. Thankfully, this is not a major flaw. Some of my swipes are not really detected very well, but all in all, it's okay. I'm not a huge fan, but it's not a huge problem either. And finally, another difference, which honestly may be major or minor depending on how you use, text messaging in general, but that is how the Bip actually collects and presents notifications to you. For one, it does not display emoji, which, could be a deal breaker for some of you. Secondly, the length is actually limited. Longer messages actually do get truncated, which could be a problem. And thirdly, the messages stay on screen for too short of a period. It's basically only there for a couple of seconds before it automatically dismisses itself. If you want to read the message again, you can swipe up to get into the history view, but that's just, an additional step. However, some of the other issues are more significant. Firstly, in terms of music control. Now, that is one of my most loved features on the good old Pebble. Essentially, what you could do is you could change the volume, you could go next to a previous track, you could pause and play, all using the hardware buttons. This is a feature that is completely missing on the Amazfit Bip. You just cannot do it. There is no such feature, which is really unfortunate. In fact, speaking of a lack of features, there is also just no apps. At all. Period. No apps. Zero. You are stuck with whatever features come out of the box. Another difference with the Bip is that it is actually primarily a fitness tracker. So it does have a host of features that are linked to that, such as heart rate monitoring, a step counter, even GPS for when you're going to take it for runs or for biking. But here's the problem. The features are kind of crap. I mean, I have no better way of saying this. It just doesn't work very well. I can give you several examples of this. For example, you go into fitness tracking. Let's say you're going to go for a run, so you tell your watch to go into the run tracker mode. Here's the deal. The watch starts off by searching for GPS. You can't really start your run until the GPS is fixed. You can cancel this step, but the problem is your watch is actually not making any measurements as long as it doesn't have GPS. You can still see the numbers, but they don't get tracked. And when you're actually on the go, your information is only logged, in line with the GPS information. So yeah, we'll only record information when, your GPS position actually updates, which I personally find just not frequent enough. Of course, if you don't get GPS, you either cannot start or you have zero information, which is a problem. I've gone for short runs where the GPS did not manage to fix by the time I got back. And yeah, I got zero information out of it. It didn't even count my steps towards my daily step counts, so that's just not great. The heart rate monitoring is rather abysmal as well. When I went for a longer run, towards the 2/3 mark, the heart rate monitor just suddenly started getting wrong values. Yeah, just suddenly halfway, my heart rate tanks, and that's a little bit weird to say the least. It definitely doesn't feel like it, and I'm pretty sure it's not a problem with my body because other people are reporting the same kind of behavior. So that's not great as well. At least, our silver lining here is that the step counter is fairly decent. It is not at all resistant to noise. What that means is, I gesticulate a lot. Yeah, all those get translated as steps as well. So, not great, but okay. But honestly, I'm willing to overlook all of that. I mean, I don't even exercise, but there are some major problems that make this as unpebble as it possibly could be. Here's the first major difference between the Bip and the Pebble, and that is how we actually create customizability. For the Pebble, it's fairly simple. You use one companion app and you load whatever you want onto the watch. Remember, the Bip doesn't have apps. What this means is, instead, if you want to do some customization, you switch up the companion app instead. And this seems to be a fairly hit or miss kind of experience. To start off with, if we don't want to go too deep into the whole customization discussion, let's look at watch faces first, right? This seems to be a fairly standard thing for smartwatches. For the Bip, you only have default watch faces to choose from, at least if we're talking about right out of the box. You have a small collection of watch faces, they appear on the watch itself, you can scroll through them, pick whatever you want, and that's it, you're stuck with that lot. Small correction here, the official app actually has a list of so-called online watch faces. I have no idea where it's actually drawing these watch faces from, the number of choices here are really limited, and it doesn't seem like there's any way in which users can actually submit watch faces there. So as you can see on screen, there are a few more watch faces to pick from, but that's still not too many. Thankfully, the community has found ways to get custom watch faces in. Yes, this is a community feature, it is not official. Essentially what you can do is you can get apps that will, look in some kind of online repository, which is again a separate thing. And yeah, the app is actually capable of hacking, the watch face onto your Bip. And even then, the watch can only hold one custom watch face at a time, which means every time you want a new one, the whole re-updating, flashing process needs to occur. What this means is there is additional technical overhead when it comes to just getting a new watch face. And that's definitely not good, especially for your casual, less technical user. And here's the thing, if you want to go deeper into customizations, you're going to have to replace the entire companion app. The companion app that is official is the MiFit app, and as you can hopefully infer from the name, this app is primarily focused on the fitness aspect. You will actually find babbled amounts of customization on the app itself, but yeah, not a lot. If you want to actually do more, you are, kind of restricted. Some people are also somewhat uncomfortable with the app because, yeah, it does require a lot of permissions, you have to create an account and everything like that. All these seem to be unnecessary to just getting a smartwatch to work. So, in come the third-party apps. And the thing is, there are several. You can of course use Gadget Bridge, which is a classic third-party companion app that works for, a few different watches, including the Pebble. I've used it for a short while and it feels okay, but some of the sleep tracking features, for example, don't really work great in Gadget Bridge. There are of course other tools, namely Notify and Fitness, as well as this thing called Tools and Amazfit. Both of these provide a whole host of customization options, but they're locked behind a paywall. You essentially have to pay to use some of these features. In the end, I actually opted to pay for Notify and Fitness for Amazfit. It's just the one I seem to click with a little bit more among the two. But yeah, it clearly doesn't reflect very well on a smartwatch if you have to pay for a third-party app just to be able to customize it further. I've enjoyed using Notify and Fitness. It allowed me to, say, flash in a custom ROM along with custom fonts that allows me to actually see some of the emoji, which is great, which is something I really needed. It even adds some new features. For example, I could actually use the button on my watch to, change tracks for my music. It's still not great, it's still nowhere near how the Pebble works, but it's a nice gesture all the same, and it's great to have. And it shows just how creative and resourceful the community can be when the official tools just aren't up to scratch. Even then, however, it has its own set of problems. I find, the disconnections fairly frequent, and sometimes what happens is even when it's connected, somehow the app couldn't actually read notification messages. So I end up just seeing a generic message on my watch, which means I had to actually get to my phone to see the messages that I have received, which kind of defeats the purpose. So even though all these tools are great, they are kind of just band-aids for, a bigger problem. Continuing down our list of major differences, the next one is for the developers, for those of us who, like to go even further to build our own watch faces. For the Pebble, you could code your own watch face. And what that means is your watch face can be pretty powerful in terms of what it does. No such luck for Amazfit. Essentially, Amazfit watch faces are just glorified jigsaw puzzles. You build all your image assets one by one, and you simply arrange them to the right locations on the screen. There is no programming or any notion of logic involved. You just put a picture in place, say that this is meant to represent something, usually say hours or minutes or the weather, and then that's it. You don't get to determine any of the logic behind how the watch face actually behaves. And even this feature, by the way, is a third-party feature. Again, there is no official support for this, somebody hacked this together. So, as expected, it is rather buggy. Some of my watch faces don't behave the way they're supposed to behave, and thanks to the fact that, there is no code involved, there is nothing to debug. There is no notion of even attempting to solve this problem. You just gotta live with what you got. So, all in all, not that great. I mean, it works, but it leaves a lot to be desired. So, the next question is, should you buy this watch? Simply ask yourself this question. Are you okay with a cheap watch that doesn't do a lot, and whatever it does, it sort of does it okay, not well? If yes, then maybe you can consider this. Are you willing to put in a lot of time to configure, potentially even buy third-party applications just to make the watch work the way you want? If yes, then maybe you can consider buying it. But here is when you shouldn't buy it. You shouldn't buy the Amazfit Bip if you are expecting a Pebble replacement. Even though it does share some good features from a Pebble, it is a far cry from what a Pebble is. If you're looking for a Pebble replacement, the Amazfit Bip isn't it, unfortunately. If you're looking for something Pebble-like, you're much better off looking for a used Pebble. That's probably, your best bet. I have rambled a lot, so it's a good time to wrap this up. To conclude all of this in one line, I would say that a Amazfit Bip feels unpolished. It doesn't feel like it has the level of finesse and thoughts put into it like a Pebble. It's still passable if you want a bare minimum cheap smartwatch, but yeah, don't go in expecting a Pebble. That is all there is for this particular review. I hope you found it useful, but until next time, you're watching 0612 TV with NERDfirst.net. Thank you very much for watching. If you like my work and are feeling generous, you can shoot me a one-time donation on PayPal or sign up for a recurring one on Patreon. Of course, you can simply like, comment, and subscribe. You know the deal. For more videos, links to my channel and a related playlist are on screen. Thank you for your support.